Alrighty. So, that is the signal to start of the class. So, Gang Zhang, I saw you typed in chat. You said I don't have the tic-tac-toe code. Nobody has the tic-tac-toe code quite yet. I can, I guess, link it out in the description later on, throughout this lesson. And I can also upload it to GitHub so you guys can copy it down. But just to kind of recap, since last week, a couple things happened. So, first off, we ended up at the spot where we were trying to install Pygame in order to run our tic-tac-toe code. So that's what we're going to start off with today. And the other things we're going to do is we're going to actually see how the tic-tac-toe runs. And what I mean by like how it runs is essentially like just doing like a test run of it and just seeing what we're trying to aim for. And once we do that, we can actually start getting down to the code, how we can go ahead and we can program tic-tac-toe, all the stuff behind the scenes, right? So if you go and you search up how do I install Pygame, so how do I install Pygame, so there's a couple websites that you get up with. So this one I recommend you to go to. It's on the pi.org website, and there's only really one line here. So if I am to go to command prompt, so I open up command prompt, so I already have Pygame installed, and so it says it's in Python blah 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 blah. So just to kind of tell you guys how you go ahead and do it, I'm just going to go ahead and uninstall it. So I can start off like you guys, and it will go ahead and uninstall it. So we can go ahead, let's close command prompt, let's open it up again, and remember the words pip install Pygame, and that's all you need to type, and it'll go ahead, show you all these messages, and it'll tell you it went ahead and successfully installed Pygame. So we have Pygame now installed, so we shouldn't run into any problems or issues. So now we can go ahead and we can try and run it, right? So once we go out here and we close out of this, so let's restart our PyCharm. So we can go ahead and open up PyCharm again. And just to refresh you guys, so PyCharm is going to be the IDE that is used, that we use in this course. So it's just a place for us to kind of for a program to be able to edit the code for us. And when it goes ahead and edits the code for us, it becomes a lot easier on us because we don't have to go ahead and do all the stuff. Like if you spell with like that instead of with the T in there, it'll catch that for you and it'll tell you, oh, there's no such variable with here, so you need to go back and you need to find it. So we don't need to do that because this will tell you that. And you'll see tip of the day, sometimes this is useful. I don't really need to you don't really need to look at that or really understand it. So we can see over here, it says that it cannot find Pygame, and if we are to go ahead and run it, so remember, first thing you want to do is click on run, and then you want to make sure you click on tic-tac-toe right over here. It'll tell us that there is no module named Pygame, and the reason for this is because this is currently installed within what it's looking for is a module within this path over here. But if we are to actually look where Pygame is installed, then we can see that it's actually installed within the Python folder and not within Pygame. So that is the kind of issue that we need to go ahead and solve, right? Because without that, we can't exactly run the code because we need this module here, right? So as we can, I'll show you how we can exactly get to Python. So there's two ways in which we can go ahead and kind of find this out. So if we were to go to command prompt again, and when we went ahead and installed Pygame, so I'll go ahead and uninstall it again. Oh, just typed install. Let's restart our command prompt. Alright, pip uninstall Pygame. So we can see over here that we can see this path that it brings up. So this path that it brings up is important because this tells us exactly what is going on, right? So exactly where is this located. So if we are to go ahead and try to find it ourselves, it's easy for us. Now you'll notice over here it travels into some place called app data, and if we are to open this up ourselves, we can't actually find it. So what you need to do is you need to type %appdata%, and that is the only way that you can go ahead and locate this. Otherwise it just simply won't show because it's known as a hidden file. So over here we want to go ahead and travel into local and then programs, and then we can see we have Python. So we have Python 35 and 37. We want to go into 37. This is the wrong folder. Local, not roaming. So once we get into local, we want to go into programs. So we want to find programs right here, and we get to Python. We have 37, 38, and 39. We go into 37, right? Once we are in 37, so this might be something that you guys could have a problem with if you guys have multiple versions of Python installed into your computer. You will see that the version that this IDE is connected to is that it's trying to use this 39 version over here, but this 39 version doesn't actually have Pygame installed into it. So it's wondering, well, where in the world is my Pygame, right? So we need to go back here, all the way back to Python. We enter 37, and we go into include. And once we get into include, we can see we have the Pygame folder. So we have all of these, you know, mini programs in here. So these are called header files. So these are also files that you need in order to run it. So this is where Pygame was kind of installed into our computer, right? And when we go ahead and we install it, we want to go ahead and copy it, right? And this is a module, and what a module means is when we go ahead and we look into this, it's essentially just a bunch of files over here, right? And these files kind of are pre-written things that programmers use, and instead of having everyone to reprogram it every single time, it's just pre-written into these files for us, right? And once we go ahead and we do this, we can go back and we can look at exactly where is our PyCharm located and which folder is it trying to access. So we can see that it is trying to go ahead and run it inside here, and so we got to go back to our file explorer, and we need to see, alright, well, where it's running Python is inside Python mini project scripts and then python.exe. So we go back all the way here, and you'll notice I have the folder shown, and that's because I have hidden folders on. I believe that's a setting that's Googleable. You can check that out yourself if you want. But we're going to go ahead and travel into scripts. So Python mini projects right here, and you'll see in scripts we have our well, scripts. That's exactly where it runs. So it's looking for where in the world is our Python dot, or rather our PyCharm.exe. So, or the module. So where exactly is the code located? So we can put that into include, and we can paste that folder right in here. So you'll notice that this is located exactly in the same place as the other one. Oops, we need to open up this again. So if we were to compare these side by side, so this is called the path right here. So if you want to copy this, you can just simply click on the blank space, and then you can copy this over, by the way. So if you ever need to like copy it into some installation process or something like that, that's the way to do it. So we travel over here, and once again we open up command prompt to find exactly where it's located. We go into local, we go into programs, Python 37, and then we get into include, and we have the Pygame folder. So you'll notice that these two paths over here, it's very different until we get to this include part, right? And once we get into include, everything is completely the same. And the reason for this is because of the fact that the way that this Python is kind of is run is that it has to follow this certain format when using these modules, and as a result, where it's located is very important. So the kind of layers of folders. So we want to make sure that PyCharm is updated. I'm not sure if it's going to run right now to see if it's updated or not, but I guess we can test it out. Let's go ahead and close this and run tic-tac-toe. So no, it says that it still hasn't found it because it's still trying to load it in. Another thing that you need to make sure that you get right is you need to make sure you have where Python is installed correctly located, I guess. So this is the scene you should get. So actually, I'm just going to go ahead and change the OBS to that. Let me try and pull that up. Should be right here, and this is going to be the settings. So it might take a second for that to load in. Let me just make sure that is loaded in properly. Yes, I will put the link to the code in the chat. Oh, so you cannot find Pygame. I can go ahead and so that is going to be the link that you get to install Pygame. So you can only get Pygame once you have actually installed Python. So just make sure you have Python installed properly first, because that is going to be a very important step. So you'll see over here, this is all the appearance and behavior stuff. We don't want to look at that at all. We want to go ahead and get into our build over here, and we can want to click on Python debugger. Right. So actually no, I'll right here, interpreter. So the interpreter is found in this folder right over here. So this folder right over here kind of tells you exactly what Python is running on. So you can see the interpreter is located within Python mini projects inside scripts, and you can see there is the python.exe. If I pull up the folder again, just switch to that. If I pull up the folder again, I believe it is this one right here. You can see inside scripts that here we have all of the Python stuff right over here. So I guess just take a second, look at this, and then from there, I guess we can move on. Make sure you get to this step. I know we've been moving a little fast, so I guess I'll just wait a little bit. Alright, so I see, Dragon PK, you said you don't have the scripts folder. Um, so that could be a little bit of a problem, because essentially when you don't have the scripts folder, that means that you either have Python installed somewhere else, or it's kind of like you have a different installation path. And so the way we can go ahead and we can try to fix this problem. Oh, you found it. Alright. That is good. So locating the scripts folder is very important, because that is how you know that your program is running properly, because without scripts there is no Python. Scripts is where all the Python is located. If you look inside of it, you'll see that it has a bunch of applications and files, and you need all of that to run Python. So just a quick test to make sure that you have Python working is just going ahead and doing the Hello World program. So I will just show you the Hello World program, I guess. So in order to make sure you have Python working, just go ahead and come into a new file. So remember, that's just clicking File over here, New, and then clicking on Python file. Nothing else, just Python file. So you click on it, you name it. In this case, I named it Hello World, so Hello World v2, and click on Python file, and then press Enter. And once you press Enter, we can go ahead and actually print something out, and the print message is going to be Hello World. And if this runs properly, remember, go into this run over here and click on Hello World 2, and it should say the path, and then it should also say Hello World. If you have that working, that means that you have Python successfully installed. That is the simple test all programmers do whenever there's any other any program that they need to install, whether that be Python or Java or something like that. It's just a very simple test. Yeah, so it's good that it works, so that means that you have Python successfully installed. So the next step is, when I talked about Pygame, you want to go into your command prompt and type in pip install. So that link I linked over there should give you some pretty good instructions as to how exactly that works. So the only thing you should be putting into your command prompt is pip install Pygame, and then the steps from there is what I'm teaching you right now. So if you do not have Python installed within the settings folder, so I'm going to go ahead and show the settings. So let's open that. Okay, so once you get to the Python interpreter, sometimes you don't want it to be this, so we can go ahead and actually add a Python interpreter. And the location of this is, again, all we need to do is come over here, and then when we went to %appdata %, which is located right over here. We can go ahead and, oops, we went a little too far into this. So remember, the one before this, so this is called the virtual environment, and the virtual environment, so the first location is going to be location of the files, and then your interpreter is going to be right over here. So we want to click on this one, and our base interpreter. So this cannot be a it needs to be an empty folder essentially. So I'm going to create a new folder for you guys, so it's going to be called Python Mini Projects 2, and so click on 37 over here, and once we do that, it's going to create its own virtual environment. So this is a completely new folder. Everything within our old folder, so the Hello World v2, and our base tic-tac-toe code is completely gone. So now we're starting afresh, kind of, and that folder that I showed you guys before should still be there. So everything should be applied, and we can now press OK. So now if we want to access our project over here, we actually have to go ahead and exit out. So we want to open a new project. So where it's located is right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up a new window. Oh, you guys can see that. So there should still be the include, lib, and scripts. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to open up a new file, so Python file, and we're once again going to test Hello World. It's a very simple test, takes like 5 seconds, and can often save you a lot of time. And once that is typed up, we want to run. Oh, that is located in the wrong folder. We actually need to delete that, and we want to install it under that. So click on that, otherwise it'll install it under the wrong folder. And once we do that, we can see it falls under scripts, and it'll auto sort for you. And now we can go ahead and run Hello World, and you can see that it prints Hello World. So now I'm going to set you guys so you can see this over here. So we want to go ahead, we want our tic-tac-toe code. So tic-tac-toe is going to need Pygame. You saw how we installed that, so everything's going to be working now. So we're going to create a new Python file. We're going to call it tic-tac-toe. And this is the code. I will share it with you guys later. So once again, so it says no module named Pygame. So if we are, whoops. So this is why PyCharm is so helpful. You can go ahead and click on that, and it'll go ahead and tell you exactly what it's doing, and it's updating the folder for you, so everything is set up, and you can see that it gets Pygame. So now we can go ahead, press run, and tic-tac-toe, and it is having trouble finding modified cover. So we need to start naming some of these. So modified cover.png. This is where the programming gets fun. Oh, that was on the wrong folder. Alright, so let's open that up so you guys can see this now. So now we're getting into the actual programming. So what you guys see over here is the error that it's not getting the image. So as you can see, we have some of these images that we want, and it needs to have these images in order to run. So we need to make sure we name, we get 3 images and we name them like this. So modified cover, X modified, and O modified. So we can go ahead and we can search up tic-tac-toe, right? And we can display it however we want. So, you know, I kind of like this picture right here because, actually no, this one looks a little cooler for us, right? So, what we can go ahead and do is open the image in a new tab, and we can see resolution is fine. It's pretty big, so we can go ahead and we can save this image. And when we save this image, we need to make sure we put it into the right path, otherwise the program can't find it. So we need to once again go over, head into this PC, go into local disk, users, and then Python projects, mini projects 2, and then we can save it as a JPEG. And what was it named in the program? Modified cover. So it is going to be a JPEG, so we need to rename that, and it is going to be called modified cover dot JPEG. So next thing is we need to get our X and O. So X and O, we can go ahead, go back here, and you know, we can just search up for X, right? So the letter X, and choose whatever you want. Again, we'll just go ahead and go with the basic one right here. Open image in new tab, and we get this. So we will save this image as let's get our name here, X modified dot PNG. Saved, and it is downloaded into there. And now we want to get the letter O, and you know, we'll just go with this one again, and we will open image in new tab, this one right here, perform the exact same procedure, and this time we want it to be called O modified, and we save it. So now we have all of these. So what happens now is we want to go ahead and not the right thing. Now we want to make sure, well, we have to get all the naming right. So let's go ahead, let's open up a new file explorer, and once we get into this, you know, once again, Windows is very helpful in this. It'll show us the exact path, but I'll show you guys in case you don't see this. We go back into our path of where our program is located, and you can see we have these 3 pictures that we want over here. So we can see that these are actually named .jfif, so we need to change this in the program to jfif and to jfif. Otherwise, it will give us an error, and that would not be fun. So we can go ahead and rerun it, and we can see that is now our starting screen. And this is exactly how tic-tac-toe looks. So if we want X to go, we click somewhere, and seems like guess my computer's freezing up a little bit, but that's essentially how it should work. Maybe we'll try again later on, but for now I guess it's just freezing up or something like that. So I'll give you guys like 2 minutes to just catch up with what's been going on, and then I will kind of show you the rest of what needs to be done, I guess. So I'll guys should be able to see that now. So this is what it kind of should look like. The run code, you shouldn't see any red or error or something like that. So yeah. Now, the time to answer some questions that any of you guys may have. Alright, so I'm seeing you guys are getting some issues. So I see you guys say both of you can't install it, and one of you can't find the module pygame.locals. So Dragon, we're not at that. I guess I can just go ahead and get the code to you guys. So I will save this as a file, and then I will upload it for you guys. And I will send out an email after class today, kind of just with just the code, and I'll put it in a separate file so you don't accidentally copy something wrong or something like that, and from that you guys can just copy and paste the code into your own file, but for now it'll just be kind of on this computer. So Adrian the gamer, so I see you say I can't install it. So the first check is, do you have the Python working? So if you go into your PyCharm, make sure that your Hello World program runs correctly, and make sure that it says Hello World over here. Once you have that down, you want to make sure you go ahead and I need to get back into here. You go into command prompt and you write pip install pygame. And once that is installed, it should say blah blah blah, successfully installed. It might say update your version. Type in this code and it will update it for you. Go ahead and type in that code. Updated version is always better, obviously. So go with that, and once that is installed, what happens is it'll tell you, like over here, where it installed it. And in the case that you have multiple versions of Python installed, so my computer has 37, 38, and 39, I believe, and if it's set to anything but the one where Pygame is installed in, it'll give you an error, right? But one thing that you can also go ahead and do is, if you are to just go ahead and run your code within PyCharm, it'll give you the error, and on top of Pygame over here is going to be a red underline. So if you were to see me kind of highlight over this, you see there's this box over here, and this box over here shows you that it's any of the specifications of this line, essentially. In this case, it tells me the path file and stuff like that, but you should see a install button, and if it was not installed correctly through your command prompt, this will install it correctly for you, and you should be able to go ahead, press run, and then it'll give you an error talking about how you need to name the pictures right here. So these pictures right here, so wow, it actually goes ahead and shows you. I guess preferably the computer wants to take in PNG only, as to see if you just go ahead and hover over this, it'll actually show you the picture. But if you hover over something like this, it'll just say type unknown. So I guess that's something that the specification of the computer wants. So hopefully that answers your question on how exactly to install it. So I'm just going to switch the screen back to that so you guys can look at the code and what's happening. Once again, the code is going to be sent right after the class, so just check your emails after class. I'd say it should be out latest an hour, so just go ahead and make sure you check that. So hopefully, Gangjang, that answered your question about how there was no module of pygame.locals. Um, so, Adrian, you said you cannot install Pygame. That most likely means that you do not have Python properly installed onto your computer. Um, Python is very easy to go ahead and install, so I can just go ahead and show you guys once again the basic steps. Right here. Alright, so we want to come over here, install Python. We want to click on download Python, and we want to click on download Python 3.9.1. It'll give us a download thing. We want to go ahead and open it, and you'll see that it has the setup stuff for you. Just go with all their default settings. It really doesn't matter. I can't go ahead and do this because I already have Python installed, so I'd have to uninstall and reinstall it, and that would mess up the folder for PyCharm over here. So that would be an unnecessary hassle. If you have more questions on the specific steps, then you can go ahead and watch last week's video again. I believe in like the beginning 15 minutes is when we went ahead and installed Python. Once Python is installed, you can actually just go ahead and let me open this up. Just go ahead and you'll be able to run Python over here. So it's a runnable file. You should be able to see python.exe right over here, scripts. So that's kind of exactly how you know that Python is installed. So now that you kind of see this, I'm going to give a brief overview of the code inside the tic-tac-toe to just kind of wrap up this class, I guess. Oops. That is what you guys should be looking at. Alright. So, yeah, once again, pip install should always work as long as you have Python installed. So if Python is not installed, that is going to be your main issue with pip install. So if you have any other questions, usually the command prompt should give you an error saying blah blah blah, can't install for X reason, and just go ahead and copy and paste that into Google, and I guarantee you there will be an answer for this, because pip install is something that's so commonly used in Python that there are bound to be other people who get errors as well and ask the same question as well and get the answer for themselves. And once they go ahead and get that answer for themselves, then they can go ahead and use that answer for themselves. And it's always in reference for other people as well. So when we run through the code over here, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. We're going to go ahead and minimize that. So this code is about 250 lines long. It's a decently long program, nothing too hard, as there is no bot that you have to play against. This is just you against yourself. If you have a friend over, you can play against your friend and it'll just be on the computer. Even better is if later on you learn how to upload this to the web, you can go ahead and you can share this, and you can even make your own leaderboard saying, oh, I have X wins against someone else or something like that. And you can keep track of it, you can store it, you can brag to your friends, oh, I'm better than tic-tac-toe. No, I'm just kidding. But there's boundless possibilities. Programming has little to no restrictions, as you can do practically anything you want as long as it follows reason. Because Python programming in general is something that, well, has to follow some sort of reasoning, right? So first up here we have our imports. So these are all the files, the modules that we are going to be importing and using. What these are is nothing more than folders with, say, 10 or 20 of these types of files with a bunch of code in it, except that code is publicly shared and used by many others. Next, we have our variable defining. This takes up a lot of space over here, so you can see that every single one of these defines some sort of value to the variable. And for now, these don't really matter because we're just looking at the basic overview of the code. And one important line is initializing our actual window over here. So this is when the GUI actually starts. You may be wondering, what in the world is a GUI, right? Well, a GUI is what you see. So what's actually happening behind the computer is it's just a bunch of calculations. So the computer doesn't see anything. What it judges off of is a bunch of numbers, and it's able to translate those numbers into things that it can compute and complete. So the GUI is an attempt for the computer to communicate with its user, or you, to tell you this is what you're doing, and that kind of stuff essentially. So you can actually see what you're actually doing. So next, this is the initializing the window. So once it starts up the window, it needs to make sure it gets all the like the sizing right and all that kind of stuff. It's not too big, not too small. Then it'll go ahead and start up the drawing status. So you're probably like, what in the world is a drawing status? Well, drawing status essentially is for every game, for every tic-tac-toe game, you can only have 3 results: win, lose, or tie. And draw status is just the way of this game to determine whether or not you drawed, right? And that's all this is. All this is just updating the GUI, what you see, to the correct move. This is going to check whether or not you won. I know, that's a pretty big blob of code just to check if you won or not. But we can go over this later, and I'll show you guys why it needs to be this long, right? Next is going to be actually drawing the X and O. So this is going to be drawing each one of the X's and O's, so every time you click. And this is going to be user click. So where exactly you click on the board determines where exactly we're going to put that X or we're going to put that O. This is not really complicated, but really, really cool in my opinion. So it's not something that I typically use too often because I don't really deal with GUI stuff in my daily programming stuff. But if you intend on creating a game, other projects like this, user click is something that's really cool and can be implemented in really cool ways. Next is going to be reset game. So once there is a winner, once it draws, and I'll go ahead and reset the entire game so you can play again. And it'll be stuck in this loop, again, using while true, meaning that it will always repeat this, right? And the only way to exit out is to click the X button, right? This over here. So that's a brief overview of the code. So hopefully that was not too much to confuse you. So is it sort of like binary? So I'm assuming you're referring to when I was talking about GUI. So the binary is the code, is the computer language. That is what the computer uses to calculate everything. All the things that the computer does, all of the video games you play, all of the YouTube you watch, is just a whole lot of zeros and ones. It is really cool to think about that because you think about all these complicated things you can do, and it can somehow be simplified into a lot of zeros and ones, right? Each colored pixel you see on this computer over here is actually just a hex code, right? Well, it's not necessarily hex code, but there's a code for each color. Most commonly is a hex code. A lot of games use it. A lot of monitors use it. A lot of things use hex codes essentially. And it's an easy way to essentially go ahead and track the colors. And when you go ahead and you track the colors properly, um, it's it's possible for you to go ahead create videos, right? And that's where YouTube comes about. When you go ahead and you record, it's actually just recording each individual pixel. So that's just some food for thought. Just kind of a branch off of the current lesson. So I hope you guys were able to be to know exactly what we're aiming for in this very first tic-tac-toe mini project. As you could see, how the example ran, and exactly how it works and that kind of stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to email. Um, Emailing is a great way to keep a hard copy of any questions you may have. Googling is also a great way. If you find a very good website that you think you might refer to again, just go ahead and press the favorite button. That's an easy way to just go ahead and make sure you always have that reference there. So, if no one has any other questions, my goal for you guys for next week is going to be running the actual code on your pie chart. So the code will be sent out in as soon as I can, definitely within the next hour. So I guess check your emails tonight, later tonight. And with that, that concludes the lesson. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. But if not, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Alright, so it looks like no one has any questions, so thank you for watching, and see you next week.